Prepare for a true revolution.
Actually, you can prove God exists.
Questioning tradition, because what you've been taught isn't always true.
Welcome to Truth Revolution. This is where faith and reason meet. And I'm Dave. With me is Jeff. He's the pastor at Revolution Church.
That's right. And we want to thank you, everyone who emailed us last week.
Mm-hmm.
We asked a whole bunch of questions
Yeah.
to atheists. We asked questions about why people don't go to church. We asked questions about the Bible contradiction.
Right.
So we got good responses. It's been really fun answering questions. We've answered every single one of them I've gotten so far. Well, there's one that I still need to answer. But yeah, other than that, we've answered pretty much all of them. And the one I need to answer is the question on today's show.
Right on. So we're going to get it.
We're going to get it today.
Right on.
But yeah, so we're going to do the show. We're going to answer a listener question, a really good one today. A guy from United Kingdom had a question. Also, we're going to do a Bible contradiction, but we're going to keep the contest going up because we only gave away one free book last week.
Oh, how could that happen?
Because people didn't send in their answers.
Right? You need to do that.
So we're going to give away four more free books.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to talk about early meaning manuscripts today.
Right.
We got a lot going on.
Continue on with the cracked theme.
That's right. And we're from Revolution Church in Salina, Kansas, home of the...
Cracked acronym? I don't know. Oh, you came up with it, right? Tell me if I'm wrong, please.
No, you're right. This is the home of the cracked acronym.
All right, well then.
We
should put that on the outskirts of the home of the cracked acronym. It doesn't matter that this is the home of astronaut Steve Hawley, right?
No, it doesn't matter that it's
Sorry,
the home of
Steve.
an astronaut. It doesn't matter that this is where Cozy Burgers, the famous
Right.
restaurant. It doesn't. None of that matters. All right. So anyway, we are from Salina, Kansas. If you're in Salina, Kansas, or the surrounding area, you should be coming to our church.
Yes.
Why aren't you here?
It's almost as fun as the radio show, really.
It really is. Actually, last week was more fun because everybody kept taking pictures of me when I was making a fool out of myself on stage.
That's pretty much typical, isn't it?
I don't think they take pictures every week. I
No,
don't
not the
normally- I
pictures,
don't
but you're making a
normally
fool
look-
of yourself on stage.
Well, yeah, I just
Okay.
don't normally look as stupid as I did last Sunday.
Yeah,
But
I saw some of those pictures. It's
Anyway, so
pretty incriminating.
you should come to Revolution Church. We meet at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and 5 p.m.
Yeah, our new service.
So that's pretty awesome. You can come anytime you want. Now, I'd love you to come out, but we're going to get into this show. Also, you need to get the truthrevolution.tv, by the way.
Right.
To those of you who donate and love the show,
Thank you.
thank you. Huge thank you for the bottom of my heart.
Yes.
Please consider donating. Please consider reviewing our show on iTunes.
Yeah.
If you want to review the show, please do that.
Right. If you like it, let everybody know about it. Come on now.
5 out of 5 stars. Now, if you don't like the show, don't rate us on iTunes.
If you don't like the show, go ahead and call Jeff. I'll give you his number after the show.
Just
and
email
you guys
me.
Can talk
I'll
about
give
it.
you my phone number if you want to talk. I really will. All right. So anyway, we're talking today. We spent a lot of time on nothing. All right. So today we're getting into the concept of early meaning manuscript because we do this cracked acronym Dave was talking about. How do we know we can read the Bible
Right.
well? How do we solve contradictions? All that sort of stuff. And we do it with our cracked acronym, CRACKED. Now the E stands for...
Early meaning and manuscript.
That's right. And we're going to talk about each one of these things because we have to get back to the earliest meanings and the earliest manuscripts if we want to know what the Bible really said. Because we believe the Bible was an error. We haven't found any errors in there yet, but we're talking about the original writings. We're not talking about the copies.
Right.
As the people say, well, you have copies of copies of copies. You don't have the real Bible. Well, we believe the original was inspired by God. Our copies aren't inspired, but they faithfully record what was inspired.
Right. And it's not like we have. It's not like our Bible is like okay, they made a Bible in 1973, and then they decided to come out with another one, so they copied the Bible that we had in 1973. It's not like it happens like that. It's not like when you take a Xerox and make a Xerox of a Xerox of a Xerox. The people that write or that copy the Bible actually go back to the earliest manuscripts they can find.
Yes.
So, it's not like it's a Xerox of a Xerox of a Xerox.
And we're going to go into a little detail on that a little bit later in the show. So that, well, first, I'm going to throw Bible contradiction out there to you, and I'm going to show you why this sort of thing is important in a couple different ways. But the first way is this. 1 Kings 4:26 and 2 Chronicles 9:25. It's talking about stalls of horses.
Right.
And one of them says 40,000.
Yeah, and the other one's 4,000.
Right. Now, a lot of critics point this out, and they say there's something wrong with the Bible. But they're criticizing this without knowing the earliest meaning or the earliest manuscript. Okay. Now, if you painted a picture of the Mona Lisa, and I said, that's a counterfeit, you'd be like, no, whoa, no, I'm not counterfeiting. I'm just trying to paint a picture
Make
of the
my
Mona
best
Lisa.
representation.
Exactly. I'm working on my painting.
Paint by colors.
Right.
Or by numbers.
I'm not counterfeiting. Don't call the FBI. But the old meaning of counterfeit was basically a really good copy. Mm-hmm. That's what it meant. I was giving you a compliment. Now we live in 2016, so we really need to go by the 2016 standard of the word. So if I say you're making a counterfeit,
yeah, I'm probably making bills in my basement.
Right. And so this is what we want to be sure of, that we're using the right words. Okay, if you are thinking the Bible is saying whatever, the Bible is saying slavery is good, or the Bible is saying X is like this, you better be sure that you know what the meaning of the word slavery was, or that you know what the meaning of another word was, not today, but when the Bible was written 3,000 years ago. So there's a couple different things going on here. There's a guy named Donald Morgan. He wrote this.
He said, no original manuscript exists. There's probably not one book which survives in anything like its original form. There are hundreds of differences between the old manuscripts of any one book. These differences indicate that numerous additions and alterations, some accidental and some purposeful, were made to the originals by various authors, editors, and copyists.
Okay. So this guy's making a pretty harsh accusation against the Bible, which we're going to answer. Look, God didn't promise that the copies of the Bible would be perfect. Right? He didn't promise that if you go to a photocopier and make a photocopy of your Bible, that just because it's the Bible, it's always going to be perfect.
Right.
So there may be errors in the copies. But we need to figure out, this is why we need to figure out what was originally written. Now, a manuscript can be like a handwritten copy of an original document. So we don't have any original Bible writings. We just don't. We have manuscripts. And there's about 2,000 years worth of manuscripts, of copies, of writings. Now, the good news is, out of the manuscripts that we have, out of the thousands upon thousands upon thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of manuscripts that we have some in Palestine, Syria, Egypt. And guess what?
What?
They all agree on every single major point.
There you go.
And they all agree on pretty much every minor detail, like whether it was 40,000 or 4,000 stalls. Plus, you probably heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Mm-hmm.
The Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in the caves in the 1950s.
Yes.
These were scriptures that people found in these caves, but they were really old. They found them in the 1950s, but they date to like before 100 AD. And so now we can take our Bibles in 2016, or back in the 1950s when they found it, and compare what we had in 1950 or 2016. We compare that to what was written in the year 100. And guess what? How many changes were there in thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years?
I'd say it's about 95% identical.
Dang it, Dave, you know the answer. Stop doing that. That's just wrong. Not allowed to do that. But that's right. They were 95% identical.
You know, that is actually mind-blowing, and that kind of takes the legs out from underneath the argument of the copy of a copy of a copy
that
deal.
the Bible's changed over time,
Right.
right? Because you play the game telephone. It's like, I'm going to whisper in your ear, they're going to whisper in the next.
Right.
And people always say that. This is just like the Bible. It's a copy of a copy, so it's going to get messed up. Well, look, now we have stuff from the year 100 AD, and actually much earlier even now. We have stuff from before the year 100 AD, and you compare it to the stuff from the year 2016, it's the same.
Right.
It's the same. It didn't change over 2,000 years. There's only 5% differences, and those were mainly spelling differences. Like one guy spelled the word boot, B-O-O-T. The other guy spelled it B-O-O-T-E.
Right.
Not content changes here.
Right.
We're not talking like...
The English version of boot.
That's right. We're not talking like it started out, and Jesus was a good guy. And then like 100 years later, Jesus was a very good guy. And then 100 years later, Jesus was the Messiah. Then 100 years later, Jesus was God. No,
Right.
like it started... The Bible is identical to what it was written at 100 years, or 100 AD.
Right.
So hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years ago. All right, Dave, let's get out of this content. We're going to come back to it.
Okay.
But let's go ahead and do Bible contradiction right now.
Bible contradiction.
All right. Should we swear an oath? I promise you we're going to get to the answer to this.
All right, Dave,
What? I know.
you just made a promise before you even knew what Scripture said about it.
Oh.
We haven't solved it yet.
All right. Here we go. This is what the Lord commands, says Numbers 30, 1-2. See, when a man makes a vow to the Lord or takes an oath to obligate himself by a pledge, he must not break his word, but must do everything he said. Hebrews 6:13 says, when God made his promise to Abraham, since there was no one greater for him to swear by, he swore by himself.
Okay, so you have
Promises being made.
a guy taking a vow, and the
Right.
Bible's saying the guy takes a vow, he has to keep it. And you have God taking a vow.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
But Matthew 5:34 through 37 says,
Jesus,
but
this is Jesus talking about.
yeah, he says, but I tell you, do not swear an oath at all. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. Yikes.
So which one is it? God swore an oath, and Jesus was like, don't swear oaths.
Right?
Oh, man, that seems serious.
God is contradicting himself.
Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to use our cracked acronym. And we're going to go for A, author's intention.
Okay.
What is attempting to be communicated here? Now, we read in the book of Numbers, chapter 30, when a man makes a vow to the Lord. Okay, what's being communicated here? Is it saying that men should take vows?
No.
What is God intending to communicate in this command?
Well, if you make a vow,
Yeah?
then you should keep it.
Yeah, that's what God's trying to communicate,
Yeah.
right? If you do this, you better follow through.
Right.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Or let's go back to the Jesus quote that they're saying contradicts it.
Okay.
Jesus says, don't swear at all. Just let your yes be yes or no be no, because anything that comes from the evil one.
Basically, do what you say you're going to do.
The exact same thing.
Uh-huh.
It's the exact same thing. Now, Jesus, and by the way, in that Numbers 31, God isn't telling you to swear oaths. So when
Right.
Jesus says, don't swear an oath, he's not contradicting what Numbers 30 said.
Right.
Okay. Now, Hebrews 6 is more interesting, where a God actually swears an oath by himself. So what's going on here? Again, what's the author's intention? When we read Jesus and what Jesus says, he says, don't swear an oath at all. All you need to say is yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. So what is Jesus' intention? Is it to just get everyone to stop swearing, or is it to stop getting people to make false promises because the devil has pushed them to say things that they shouldn't have said?
Right. And that happens all the time. You know, people make promises they can't keep.
Yeah. Now, can God be swayed by the devil?
Absolutely not.
No. If there's absolutely no way for you ever to be swayed by the devil, ever, would it be wrong for you to swear an oath?
No.
It wouldn't, because
Because you're
it
going to
would-
do what you
because-
say you're going to do.
Because it wouldn't come from the evil one. And Jesus' problem was, when you, human being, so you swear an oath, you're doing it because the devil's like pushing you to make part of your words better than other words,
Right.
and you might try to get by not telling the whole truth on part of it. And no, Jesus is like, just don't even do that, because the devil's trying to get you to squeak by somewhere. Because what they were doing back then is they would swear like on the temple if it was really important,
Right.
or they would swear on like a donkey if it wasn't very important, because they wanted to be able to like, I'll break an oath that was sworn on a donkey.
Right. Easy out,
I
right?
totally made that up, by the way. I don't think they swore on donkeys, but you get the
Hey, you
point,
never
right?
know, right?
They swore on different things.
Yeah.
Now, so that's the answer for Bible contradiction, that there is really no contradiction here. God can swear on himself because he's not in danger of being tempted by Satan
Amen.
to not follow through on his word, which that was Jesus' problem. Now, before we finish this, I want to say we're going to go ahead and give away 4 more books, because we gave away 1 book last week. You can have either Josh McDowell's More Than a Carpenter or Timothy Keller's The Reason for God. And all you have to do is email us and use the correct acronym. Last week we made it 2 contradictions you have to solve. All you have to do here is solve 1. Just solve 1. And we're going to post
it
them.
easier on you. Mm-hmm.
We're not going to read them here. We're just going to post them on the website, truthrevolution.tv, and click on our show. Okay? Just click on the show, and then you're going to see all the Bible contradictions there. You're going to see a link to our cracked acronym so you can look it up. It's really easy. Solve the contradiction and email us, and you get a free book.
There you go.
You don't even have to be cordial about it. You just be like, yo, here's the answer. Give me my book, idiot. And I will do it.
He doesn't expect much.
Well, if you want to be like, hey, Jeff, you're not as bad looking as your voice sounds, you can say something like that too.
Right on.
That would be very kind. I need compliments. All right. Thanks for listening.
You're a good dude.
We're going to take this back after the break. We're going to continue to talk about early meaning manuscripts. And also, we got a really awesome listener question I'm pumped to answer. It's about God and evil and how he knows the future and whether it's okay to send people to hell. And
Wow, that's a lot of stuff.
maybe we'll just spend the rest of the show on that question.
Okay.
I don't know. We're going to answer stuff. So be right back here. Truth Revolution
.tv.
is our website. I like how you shorten that.
Yeah.
TruthRevolution.tv and Revolution Church. We'll be right back.
Truth Truth Revolution.
Early meaning in manuscripts.
That's what we're talking about.
I'm about the cracked acronym, at least that part of the cracked acronym. So
That's right. Early meaning manuscripts. What is this all about? We're talking about whether or not you really understand the Bible. And we use our cracked acronym to understand that. And so the E is early meaning and manuscripts. You have to get to the early meaning of things, and you have to get to the original manuscripts of the Bible. So before this, we showed that when they found the Dead Sea Scrolls that were from 100 AD, and we compared them to our Bibles in, say, 2016, we found they're 95% identical.
Right.
There was no change over time. So when people say, oh, the Bible's a copy of a copy, no, that's not true. There was no change. Only 5% different, mainly spelling. The Dead Sea Scrolls prove that Old Testament is basically identical. Now, I just want to give you a little picture, a window into how accurate these are.
okay.
All right, so and these numbers are a couple years. I didn't have time to get the brand new numbers, so these numbers are a couple years old, but they're updated from what most people give. So,
Okay.
all right, the Homer's Iliad. You ever heard of the book?
Yep.
Okay, it was written 800 BC, and the time gap between when it was written and our earliest manuscript was 400 years.
Okay.
And we have 1,757 copies of that. That is the best manuscript evidence of any ancient book,
Okay.
except the Bible. But I'm
knew
gonna
it.
okay. And there's a 400-year time gap between when it was written and the first manuscript, and we have 1,700 copies. Okay, Herodotus' history is there's a 1,300-year time gap, over 1,000 years, and we only have 8 copies. Sophocles, his plays there's a 200-year gap, and there are only 100 manuscripts, or actually 193. Sorry, did I say 8 manuscripts on Herodotus? I meant 109.
Okay.
And there's 193 of Sophocles. Plato's tetralogies. Yeah, sorry, I'm sick and I'm saying
That's
everything
fine.
weird today. Okay.
Nobody can pronounce these anyway. Come
These
on.
were written 1,000. The time gap between when it was written and what we have is 1,300 years.
What?
There are 210 copies. Okay, I'm going to skip a bunch of these. Okay, let's get to the New Testament in the Bible.
Mhm.
The time gap between when it was written and the copy we have, less than 40 years.
That is nuts.
40 years is all. And how many copies do we have? 5,795. Actually, more than 5,795 now.
That blows everything away.
Oh, it blows everything away. It's like
Yeah.
almost 5 times as much as the next one. Not quite. Well, two and a half times as much as the next one.
Yeah.
But it's like 500 times as much as most of them.
Right. And the thing that perplexes me is that nobody doubts the authenticity of all these other writers.
No, nobody reads the
But they
Iliad
wanna-
and is like, no, I don't think it's what he wrote.
And then they want to pile onto the New Testament or onto the Bible and say that's
Right.
a copy of a copy.
Which, in some respects, I understand because I'm not basing my life on the Iliad. I'm basing
True.
it on the Bible.
That's probably a good thing.
But we have way more evidence that what the Bible is the same as what it was when it was actually written. So you can trust the Bible. This is why the early manuscripts are important, to go back and to compare them so that we know what you have in your hand is the same as what was written.
Amen.
Now, we got a lot more to say about slavery and the early meaning of words. I don't know if we'll get time to it. We're going to try, but because right now we're going to answer a listener question.
I got a question.
All right. Sit back.
What?
This question is from Dan in the United Kingdom.
Hey, Dan.
So it says, "Hello, host Dave and Pastor Jeff."
I like that he called you Host Dave.
am.
I'm going to call you Host Dave from now
Right
on.
on. He says, "I'm an agnostic investigating the claims of religions, and your show has definitely helped me. I feel I'm very close to accepting theism and subsequently Christianity, but I do have a few niggles that always seem to stick in my mind.
That must be a UK word.
I don't understand how God creating us with free will and the concept of salvation can truly mesh harmoniously.
Okay.
I can understand how God would know or could know what we would choose in a certain scenario whilst giving us free will, but this to me doesn't work with the area of salvation and the entry into heaven. I'll lay out some points that I think are correct and logically follow, and I'd really appreciate it if you could point out where I've gone wrong. So here goes.
Yep.
Number 1, God creates the universe because he's omnipotent.
Okay.
He causes you and I to exist and do the things that we do because he has created everything. You wanna,
He technically,
Okay.
I technically agree with what you wrote, but I think what you wrote is not what you're getting at.
okay.
Okay? God creates the universe because he's omnipotent. True. He causes you and I to exist. True.
Yes.
And do the things we do. Not quite. Okay, so, and by the way, he made a 4 4-point argument here. Dan, you've made a 4-point argument. I've read this. I love it. It's very good. The thing I'm going to take most issue with right here is this. I just want to tweak what you're saying here, and this might resolve the problem for you. Okay, God doesn't cause you to do the things that you do in a primary sense. So God has what we call this thing called middle knowledge. Okay, I want you to picture 3 steps. I want you to picture God, and I want you to picture God imagining a billion different worlds, every possible world that could possibly exist in every possible universe. He imagines this. And then I want you to imagine God looking at one of these potential universes and just kind of picking it out with his hand and saying, this is the one I want to make. And he makes that universe pop into existence. Now, everything in that universe happens because the people freely choose it. God is not sticking his hand in there, pushing things around, pushing buttons, but God has this middle knowledge before he created it, but after he knew it is when he chose it.
Right.
So he understood the entire world, and he understood who was going to choose him and who wasn't going to choose him, and that's the universe he chose to create. And then he said, okay, I want universe number 28B Zeta to work. Okay,
Right.
Go. Right? And he made universe 28B Zeta go. And then this is the universe we're in. And this is the universe he created. And so you're making all those free choices. And he knew you were going to make them because that was the universe he picked. That was the timeline he picked. But he's not making you make those free choices. You're making those free choices.
Wow.
And so when we say, well, God causes you to do the things you do, no, not really. He doesn't cause you to do it. He picked the universe where you would freely choose to do that, but he didn't cause you to do it.
Right.
It's like if you go into a voting booth to vote for Donald Trump. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. And let's say that you go in there and it's Donald Trump versus Bernie Sanders in the United States. And Dan's from the UK, so he doesn't have a dog in this game. But let's just say you go to vote for Donald Trump over Bernie Sanders. But let's say I've got a microchip implanted in your brain, and I love Donald Trump so much, I'm going to force you to vote for Donald Trump. Did you read this in the news story? Did this actually happen? No, I'm just kidding.
No.
All right. So if you go into the voting booth and you start to vote for Bernie Sanders, I'm going to push a button.
Right.
And it's going to force you to vote for Donald Trump. Now, let's say you go in the booth and you don't choose Bernie Sanders. You choose Donald Trump of your own free will. You just push the Donald Trump button. Do I need to push my button?
No.
No, I don't need to control you because you've chosen what I was going to make you do anyway, right? So did you have free choice in that option? Did you really choose Donald Trump?
You did.
You did. You really chose Donald Trump. Did you? Could have it gone any other way?
No.
No, because if you tried to go another way, I would have pushed the button.
Right.
So see, the fact that you can't make a different choice doesn't mean that you don't have free will. God knows what you're going to do. There's no other way around it. God knows what you're going to do.
Right.
But you still have free choice.
Yeah. That's kind of a crazy thing to kind of wrap your mind around, you know?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that it can be kind of confusing to think about. But if you sit down and think about it, replay it over a couple of times, I mean, it might start making sense.
Yeah, and literally like play this part of the show over a couple times. Like when I first started reading on this, I was like, what? I had to read the books over and over and over. You can read William Lane Craig. Actually, we got a link to his article about middle knowledge and hell that we're going to put on the website, truthrevolution.tv. Just click on our show. You get to his article there. It's a good article. Let's keep reading his points. Okay, so that was point number 1. But point number 2
is because God is omniscient and timeless, he also knows everything that will happen throughout the entirety of the history of the universe.
Yeah.
He knows everything we will do from the moment we are born until the moment we die. Otherwise, he is not omniscient and or timeless.
True.
Okay. Number 3, as God knew everything he would do when he created us knowing whether or not we would accept Jesus Christ as our personal Savior and thus be saved.
This is true, Dan.
Okay. And number 4, therefore, as long as you claim God is omnipotent, omniscient, and timeless, and the creator of everything, not only does he already know whether or not we'll be saved, but he will have designed it that way. He designed the universe in a specific way, knowing everything that would happen in it. So he purposely designed non-believers knowing they would go to hell.
Okay, so there we have it. Now, this is that, and you made a really good. You obviously are very intelligent. You made a really good conclusion here, very eloquently put. So I want you to research Molinism, Molinism. Okay, and it helps. This is what I was talking about, the middle knowledge, where
Right.
God chose this world, this universe, but we still have free choice. Okay, we are still making these choices. The people who are rejecting God and going to hell, they are making that choice. But let's just say hell is real, and that you're right, and that God predetermined all of this, and we don't have a choice. If hell were real, that's not actually a logical disproof for God, is it?
No.
Right? That's not an undercutting or rebutting defeater or rebuffing defeater, as we would call them. This is not a reason to not believe in God. In fact, if you believe in hell and you believe hell were real and God really does send people there, what would be the most logical course of action?
To actually believe in God.
To actually avoid hell.
Right.
Right? So this isn't a reason to not believe in God. This is a reason to believe in God,
Right.
even if your argument was all the way right. Now, I'm going to say it's not quite right because people still have that choice. But your problem really isn't that you can't reconcile free will with God's sovereignty. Your problem is that you don't think hell is morally good. You feel like God's doing something bad.
Right.
But God, because you say God made them knowing they would choose hell. But, okay, we don't know that these possible worlds could exist that would have people that wouldn't choose hell. We don't know. Read the article, explain a little more, but like maybe the only possible worlds where nobody goes to hell only have two people that exist. So why should God not make billions of people who experience his epic love just because some people are going to reject it?
Right. Yeah.
So it's
point.
good for God to create billions of people who are going to go to heaven rather than not create people who are going to experience his love just because some of them are going to reject it.
Amen.
So, plus, we have to remember, they made that choice themselves. It really is free choice. Hey, thanks for listening to TheTruthRevolution.tv. Revolution Church, 9/11 and 5 p.m. Come and check us out.